You're useless and don't work. I want a divorce.
Where had the kind and charmingly smiling Neil from our courtship days gone?
I've been transferred. It's a nationwide bank, so I don't know when I'll be able to return here. That's why I want you to come with me.
I had quit my long-time job to follow him, but honestly, there's no point in staying with this person anymore. Fine by me. Relieved to finally be divorced, I bought a lottery ticket and incredibly won a large sum. I've come to claim my $12 million prize. Just as I was about to reclaim a happy life with my $12 million, my ex-husband Neil caught wind of it. I saw right through Neil's intentions. I couldn't forgive his plans to take the money for himself, disregarding others. I was tired of being belittled by him, so I decided to fight back. I'm Mariah, a 35-year-old housewife. Since graduating high school, I had worked for about 10 years as a City Hall employee. I thought I'd retire there without much happening. Life changed when I met my husband, Neil. We met at a restaurant near the City Hall. It's a sizable place with a vast menu, popular for meals after meetings or completing significant tasks. That day, having finished chairing a meeting, I decided to treat myself to a nice lunch there alone.
What's recommended here?
A man stood in front of the restaurant, perplexed by the menu. With its extensive options and colorful displays inside, it's common to see people deliberating over their choices. I was drawn to this man, indecisively tracing his finger over the popular recommended and manager special signs. Normally, I'd walk past, but I found myself speaking to him. If you're here, I recommend the chicken Neapolitan. It's deliciously sweet and spicy.
Chicken Neapolitan? Is that on the menu?
Yes, the mix of chicken and Neapolitan ketchup is really tasty.
Then I guess I'll try that.
His smile when he said that was so charming, I was captivated. At first, he seemed like a capable businessman, but his smile had a boyish quality.
That keychain.
Oh, this? Got into it because of my sister. Just went to their concert recently.
The one just the other day? I was there too. It was amazing, right?
We hit it off over our shared love for the artist and unexpectedly ended up having lunch together. Familiar with the restaurant and it being lunchtime, our short conversation was enjoyable. I felt a sense of fulfillment, not enough even for our lunch break. It seemed Neil felt the same way as he approached me when leaving.
If you don't mind, I'd like to see you again. Could we exchange contact information?
Living my usual life in the usual place, I never expected such a dramatic turn of events. Could something like this really happen outside of a drama? Despite my doubts, we exchanged numbers. I wanted to talk more, and it was exciting to share such enthusiasm with someone. Afterward, we started going out for meals and attending events together. Our relationship naturally progressed, leading to dating and eventually marriage. We got married when I was 33 and Neil was 34. I wanted to cherish the happiness of being with Neil, but life doesn't always go as planned.
Mariah, I need to talk to you.
Neil came home with a troubled look. What's wrong? Come on, let's eat.
I've been transferred. I had to tell you as soon as possible.
I couldn't wrap my head around it suddenly. Transferred? What do you mean?
They said with my promotion, I should go see the world outside, and I can't really refuse.
Though surprised, part of me understood. After all, Neil was a banker. His bank has branches all over, so I knew transfers were part of the job. I had braced myself for this, but Neil's words and expression concerned me. Would a normal transfer make him look so down? Wait, what do you mean by the outside world? Is there something hard to tell?
Actually, I'm being transferred to Boston. They want me to train at a branch there.
What? Boston so suddenly? I knew that as a banker, Neil might have to relocate, but Boston of all places? We lived in a provincial city, so Boston was quite a distance away. We had discussed what we'd do if you were transferred before we got married. I had expressed my preference for him to go alone if that happened. But now, Neil was suggesting we break that promise.
Please, Mariah, I want you to come with me.
Wait, I have my job here too.
I fully understand it's hard, but I can't bear to be apart from you.
You want me to quit my job and move to Boston? We might return here in a few years. What about going to Boston alone till then?
Neil hesitantly responded. I thought about that, but our bank has branches nationwide, so there's no guarantee we'll come back here.
This is so sudden.
Being transferred to Boston means I'm on the fast track to success. It'll make things easier for you, Mariah.
Neil then pleaded with his hands clasped as if in prayer.
I know it's a lot to ask you to quit your job suddenly, but I hate the idea of going alone. I'll work desperately hard on this career path, so please, come with me.
I couldn't refuse after such a plea. Honestly, the thought of Neil transferring alone and how it would affect our lives worried me. We had discussed wanting children soon, so living apart seemed impractical. All right, I'll go with you, Neil, but you have to work hard, okay?
Thank you. I'll do my best. I'll become a branch manager and make life easier for you, Mariah.
I wish I could have told myself back then. I wish I could tell myself then not to go with him on the transfer. In Boston, Neil seemed like he had changed. He became a work-first person, or perhaps it was mostly the loss of his smile that made him seem different. Welcome home. Ready for dinner?
Huh? Can't you see how tired I am? No way I can eat.
He would go straight to the bedroom, looking as if he might collapse, his face expressionless. Mornings came too early for him, and days without a morning greeting continued. Neil, you look pale. Are you okay? I hadn't seen his smile in a long time. We barely ate together, and he usually came home after midnight. Although I heard weekends were generally free, he was hardly ever at home. Even when home, he'd stay in the bedroom shut away. It felt like living alone. I started to wonder about the point of quitting my job to follow him to Boston. Maybe I should have insisted on him going alone. But no matter how much I regret it, there's nothing I can do. I need to find something to do for myself. Just passing the days aimlessly would be such a waste. Then one day, I got an idea when I saw a flyer in the mailbox. If I'm going to be at home all the time, I might as well start working. So I applied for a job at a nearby cafe that was hiring. Fortunately, I got the job right away. Having only done office work before, everything about this job was new and exciting to me. And above all, seeing the customer smiles up close was delightful. The cafe where I worked is known for its latte art, and people come from all around to see the owner's creations. I thought how fun it would be if I could make such beautiful latte art myself. Working at this cafe in Boston, I found a new joy. In my free time, I learned latte art from the manager, spending fulfilling days. Gradually, I started thinking about how nice it would be to do something professionally with latte art. It was around this time that I began to ponder starting my own business. I dreamt of how fun it would be to have my own shop and spread the joy of latte art. These fantasies were my escape from the growing disconnect with Neil. Gradually, this escapism turned into a solid goal, and I started researching what it would take to own my own shop. But that wasn't all. Maybe I should try my luck. Around this time, I started buying lottery tickets. Working at the cafe was fun every day, and I earned my own money. I thought everything was great, but Neil didn't seem to think so. One day, while I was practicing latte art on my day off, Neil spoke to me in a bad mood.
Hey, what's with you lately, Mariah?
What do you mean? Is something wrong?
No, it's just, you're always playing around, neglecting the housework. There's dust everywhere, and you haven't prepared meals.
Of course, I did what I needed to do before going to work part-time or practicing latte art. I used to make breakfast and dinner for Neil, but he often came home late at night and skipped dinner. Lately, he would leave for work without eating breakfast, so I stopped preparing it. Neil, you hardly eat at home these days.
That's not the point, is it? Are you just making excuses because you don't want to do it?
He never used to speak so oppressively. Since moving to Boston, he seemed like a changed person.
And what's with the cafe and latte art? Isn't it embarrassing as a banker's wife? And you talk about wanting kids, but you don't even cook proper meals. Isn't that failing as a wife?
I was actually visiting the doctor between part-time hours, but it turns out there's nothing wrong with me. I don't appreciate being accused of running off to play. And about the child, the doctor said there was nothing wrong with me and asked to see you next time. When can you go, Neil? Then Neil suddenly shouted and raised his hand.
What? Are you saying it's my fault?
I didn't say that. The doctor just asked when you could come in for a check.
I've told you, I'm busy with work. It's not like you, playing with coffee. Don't lump us together.
I couldn't believe Neil would say such things. Where had the Neil who used to smile gone? Since coming to Boston, he really had changed.
I feel sick. I'm going to work.
Wait, isn't today your day off? And it's already evening.
There's something I need to finish. It's none of your business.
He left, but he didn't look like he was going to work. He was in casual clothes and sprayed cologne 2 or 3 times before leaving. Wait, do you always wear cologne? My casual question was met with a glare from Neil. His frequent rushes out of the house, mood swings, and taking it out on me were becoming too much. Honestly, I wanted to build a good relationship with Neil. Living in an unfamiliar place, he's my only family, so I want to support and help each other. But I realized Neil's view of me had drastically changed. I wanted to have a proper conversation about it. If he's unhappy with me, I want to fix it. Hey, can we talk for a minute?
That's good timing. I have something to say, too.
I wondered what he wanted to talk about. With that thought, I sat down on the living room chair. When was the last time Neil and I sat face to face in these chairs? Lately, it feels like we haven't even looked at each other properly. So, what did you want to talk about?
Don't you already know?
What do you mean?
You're so oblivious. That's why you can't get a decent job.
I decided to overlook Neil's comments about me for now, but I couldn't tolerate his belittling the job I loved. Whatever job you have, it's wrong to mock someone else's work, especially if they love it. I had resisted moving to a new place for Neil's transfer, but here, I found a passion for latte art and a dream to base my life around it. Neil carelessly trampled on that dream. I wanted to own a shop and make latte art my profession. I couldn't stay silent when my first self-discovered dream was ridiculed.
What? Work? Calling that playtime a job is more embarrassing. It's just like playing house, not real work.
Enough. What do you want to say? Then Neil, with a laugh, put a green paper in front of me.
The useless, jobless one gets a divorce.
He handed me divorce papers. Divorce papers?
Yes, you're just living off me without working. Remember your place, compare it to mine.
So that's the kind of person you are.
I'm too busy with work to support a parasite like you.
What? Did he think I would beg not to divorce? I stood there, holding the divorce papers. My silence while holding the divorce papers must be disappointing to him. He became increasingly irritated.
Of course you don't want to write. A high school grad like you can't work properly outside, can you?
What should I do with this?
Hurry up. Your slowness is just like a woman who can't work.
He seemed desperate to get divorced as soon as possible. Neil, filled with impatience, started fidgeting nervously. While tapping his foot, he glared at me as if urging me to hurry. This man was no longer the Neil I had once loved so dearly. Why did I fall for someone like this? And why did I come so far away with him, to a place where I knew no one, Now I only have regrets. The one thing I needed to do was clear. Faced with Neil's provocative attitude, I responded brightly. Okay.
Really? Remember, you can't change your mind later.
I won't. You're the one who brought these papers because you wanted a divorce, right? I'm tired of living every day trying to gauge Neil's mood. I signed the divorce papers with a smile and told Neil, I'll file these papers myself.
You better do it. I'll know if you do anything strange.
Stop it. If I say I'll do it, I will. Don't worry. After filing the divorce papers and finally being free, I decided to check my lottery ticket to see what the future held. I went to the familiar lottery kiosk, chatted with the lady at the counter, and handed her my ticket. She scanned it and suddenly let out a strange sound, disappearing from view. She had fallen off her chair in shock. I was startled at first, but then I saw an unbelievable number on the small display, along with the words, "Congratulations."
What? $12 million?
I was so shocked I couldn't speak. This was a promising restart. With this amount of money, my dream of owning my shop was now within reach. I went to the bank where my ex-husband worked to cash it in. There was no particular intention in choosing that bank. It just so happened that the bank where he worked was nearby. I never expected that visiting this bank would significantly change my situation. I rushed to the bank just before closing time to cash in my lottery ticket, feeling nervous about holding on to it for too long. As I was waiting after checking in, a woman approached me. "Why are you here? What brings you to a place like this?" Her tone was unexpectedly rude. "Well, it's not any really specific business." "Why did you even bother coming here?" "Why do you keep saying bother? Just please take care of this." What's this?" She looked curiously at the lottery ticket in my hand. "I came to cash it in." "Cash in? You bought a lottery ticket with your husband's money? How extravagant." The bank was crowded, so it's likely no one else heard the woman's rude words unless they were very close. People passed by without a second glance. It was unbelievable that such a rude employee existed, but I decided to quickly finish my business and leave. "I'm here to claim my $12 million. Her relaxed demeanor instantly changed to one of intense scrutiny. $12 million? Her loud exclamation startled me. Then, without a word, she disappeared into a back room. I was taken to the manager's office due to the significant amount of the prize. The procedure to collect the $12 million went smoothly, but I couldn't stop thinking about that extremely rude bank employee. Her disdainful look made me feel uncomfortable. As soon as I got home, I opened my laptop. Neil's bank, through a national chain, had a blog for each branch detailing daily events and promotions. I was sure I could find something about that rude employee. Browsing the blog, I discovered her name. With her name known, the situation was in my hands. While I was researching the woman on the blog, I received a message. It was from Neil, asking if we could meet tonight. Honestly, after filing for divorce and considering him a stranger now, I saw no need to meet, but I decided to oblige. Neil's pride must have made contacting me a humiliating ordeal. His message was full of condescension, saying things like, "I thought you'd be lonely, so I'll meet you." Or, "I figured you'd had enough of living alone." I was furious inside, but wanted to settle things, so I agreed to meet at a cafe. When we met outside, Neil immediately started talking upon seeing me. "Hey, shouldn't we give it another try? I've been thinking a lot since then." "Give it another try?" "Yeah, I was angry back then, and said things I didn't mean." "So you want to start over with me?" Looking at me, Neil continued. "Yes, we've had our misunderstandings, but I believe we can still become a great couple." Watching Neil, clearly intoxicated with his own words, I decided to settle this. "If you insist, maybe we could give it another try."
That's the Mariah I know.
Did you really think I'd say that? Neil looked at me shocked, so I decided to enlighten him. I'm glad we're divorced. You wanted to reconcile for the money, right?
Money? What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. You thought about keeping it all for yourself, didn't you? Neil leaned forward across the table, pleading.
No, of course not. And $12 million is a lot of money, perfect for buying a house and starting anew.
I never mentioned $12 million, did I? Neil finally realized his mistake and covered his mouth, but it was too late. He had already let it slip, and covering his mouth in a panic couldn't undo what had been said. You had an affair, found your wife bothersome, so you decided to divorce, and now you want to remarry for money? Don't make me laugh.
No, it's not the money, it's just that...
Do you even realize what you're doing and saying? Neil was visibly uncomfortable and restless. So you heard it from that woman, Rebecca, right?
What? What are you talking about?
I know you two are dating. You thought if we got back together, you could buy Rebecca even more gifts, right? Despite the cold season, Neil was sweating. Did you really think you could fool me with such a trivial excuse? I showed Neil the photo I was holding. I thought something was odd when I visited the bank. Then this very rude woman approached me. I found her distasteful, but she turned out to be your girlfriend. The photo I was holding was of Neil and Rebecca standing together. They didn't look like mere colleagues, but rather like a couple standing close to each other. To claim they were just workplace acquaintances would be quite a stretch. If he was trying to pass off that implausibility, he really needed to think again. I work at a cafe that turns into a bar at night, and I was surprised to see you two on a date there. I heard about it from the owner and colleagues, but I couldn't believe it.
Well,
I asked the owner, and apparently, you two have been coming there occasionally for about 2 years. My hand holding the photo was trembling. I had only worked part-time during the day, waiting for your return, but you were cheating and planning to leave me for the younger, beautiful Rebecca, weren't you? Neil had no response, looking down. But then, I won the lottery, and you changed your mind, right? He looked at me guiltily. So you thought if you withdrew the divorce, you could squeeze money out of me as your husband?
That's right. Money is a shared marital asset, right? I've been living with you for years, so if we got back together, it would still be shared property.
Wait, are you serious? I sighed at Neil's words. How could he have the nerve to propose reconciliation after he was the one who initiated the divorce? Sure, I have the lottery ticket, and I won a substantial amount, but I bought it after we filed for divorce.
What? What does that mean? Be clear.
It means it's not the subject to property distribution. I've already checked with a lawyer. Neil looked at me with a resentful expression. You can't be serious. You initiate the divorce, and when I come into a significant amount of money, you think we can just get back together?
I never said that.
But that's the reality, right? I heard it. I operated my mobile phone. What played was a recording. From the background noise, I could hear Neil and Rebecca's conversation. They talked about my $12 million win, and how getting the money before divorcing would make buying a house a reality. The woman's excited voice in the conversation was notable.
This is from when you were talking at the bar. How did you get this?
I was recording a video, and your conversation accidentally got recorded. So you were planning to take my $12 million win and enjoy it with your mistress, right?
Because it's not fair for you alone to be so lucky. You just play around at the cafe and then get a fortune? And you can't forgive me for 1 or 2 affairs? From my point of view, it's you who's out of line, always playing around.
I couldn't understand how my part-time job and Neil's affairs could be compared, but I decided to settle this matter once and for all. All I wanted to say was about that fact. This branch? It had some colleagues who attended our wedding, right? The world is really small.
So, what if a colleague was there? What does it have to do with you?
I showed them the video because they wanted to see it. They're interested in flair bartending. Oh, and by the way, The video includes your conversation." Then Neil stood up from his chair with a loud noise. He stood up so abruptly that the chair toppled over, making a loud crashing sound.
"Hey, what are you thinking showing that to a colleague?"
"They wanted to see it, so why not?"
"What are you doing to me?"
Holding his head, Neil crouched down. It was understandable. One of Neil's colleagues, who attended our wedding, was rumored to become a manager. Being noticed by this colleague meant getting off the promotion track.
All my efforts, up to this point, and to be discovered by that guy of all people.
You thought it would be fine, as long as it wasn't discovered, right? Neil ended up far off the promotion track, now relegated to a teller dealing with shredding duties. Overtaken by his juniors and regarded as a nuisance at the bank. But that was their own responsibility. They chose the path that led them here, so they should accept the consequences. Rebecca was called by her boss and told that resignation was her only option. Rebecca reportedly insisted, "I really don't want to resign." But once her affair was exposed so publicly, she had no choice but to resign. Eventually, she resigned. Rebecca, it seems, was the kind of person who couldn't do her job well. She couldn't understand instructions, did sloppy work, and essentially couldn't do anything, resulting in her not getting any job offers, even though she was registered with the temp agency. After the divorce, it seemed they blamed each other. I continued to practice latte art and decided to go independent. I was unsure about starting my own business, but the cafe owner was very helpful with various consultations. Thanks to the owner's kindness, I was able to open a new cafe. I had been doing administrative work at City Hall since high school graduation. However, following the transfer and discovering the fascinating work of latte art was a stroke of luck. If Neil had gone on his transfer alone, I likely would have never encountered latte art. There were certain nights at first, but thanks to word of mouth and magazine features, the cafe did well. I never dreamed of owning my own shop, so it's true that you never know what life will bring. That's what makes life interesting. Being able to enrich my days with something I love is truly fulfilling. Such modest happiness brings me great joy.